Hello back again. Today we have a rank game between Big Band, Big Business, also Fillis, and Vellith in ranked. It's on the map Hideout. Fillis playing English, Vellith playing China. That's I think a really good map for defensive assist because you have more or less a safe woodline and you can with 2 towers more or less get all vision of your base for most of the time. So we have a normal start of Vellith, so no village start. And fast. Hier. Nutze mal Bild for English. Kurz. Man at arms. I don't think it will be. Seems like a normal fast feudal age, and he plays some feudal on. Maybe we even see feudal aggression. Fillis has 6 sheep. Vellith has 9 at the moment. So a small sheep lead for... Oh, this is unlucky that sheep missed for Fillis. And if Vellith does it correctly and runs on top of his base, he gets more or less all of the sheep on the map. Also most of the sheep on the map. Like another 4 he should get, and that's 3 for... Ah, that's still 2 missing. Damn. Oh, Vellith goes aggressive, so he could get even more sheep. This should be sheep number 10. $11 here. And 12. That's a huge start for Vellith. To be fair, English doesn't need the sheep that much, but China needs them for sure, and... I would have loved to, after the 3 sheep, to turn back after he saw Fillis' scout, because now Fillis can get the 4 sheep here on top. I like the move from Vellith after he saw the scout here, that he ran relatively fast on the top. Also, I like that he gone there, but the moment he saw Fillis, he should gone to his top set, because in the corner with no market is always sheep on this map. So that's an Imperial Academy age up. That's 3 for Fillis. Looks like a fast second TC build for English. Makes sense, because if China goes for a second fast TC with the Song Dynasty, they're on 3 TCs in the moment. English hits Castle Age, they're also 3 TCs, so that's relatively close. But yeah, China should spike still a little bit earlier. That's the 4 scouts for this. Shield. So he has 14 sheep, Vellith, and Fillis has 12. If Vellith had gone back, he had 18 sheep to 8, so that would be 10 sheep more. I could have had 10 sheep more. Does he has the resource for a barbecue? I don't like the position of the Barbican too much. I think you want it more here, because then it protects your whole wood lane here, and it protects this area, and you can either wall this here on the top off, or just put another tower here, get the emplacements, and you're fine. I get here another tower. You can get here here's the Barbican, here's the tower. It's a little bit less protective for the stone. Also, this money camp here in the middle would be amazing. Instead of on the left side on the court, but yeah, I do that too sometimes. Nice. So that's I think that's more or less a normal build from English before the farm build was invented. You go for stone, get a few archers in the early game out, just to harass the enemy and force the enemy into military units. That delays the enemy, and at least force are stable. And you can just place the second TC. I think even Krabi have a really early English video about it versus some. So it's more or less the original English build we had on before the farm build was invented. This was either that or full feudal aggression, and I personally was a big fan of that type of a build. First of all, it won versus full feudal aggression versus English. As in the mirror, it also is better than the fast second TC build as English, because you have a little bit army out and it forces your enemy on military. And yeah, at the moment the game looks really good for English. They should get a slow villager lead now. Yeah, he's still one behind, but that should catch up slowly, because he has he has 45% more villager production speed than China does. And he gets a lot of imperial officials. 4 military. So he has 2 horsemen here. I'm not the biggest of fan. I like that they're on the map, but I think you want to scout with them because you don't really want to take damage in your horsemen. From this point on, this build has a few variations. Normally you go relatively fast into Castle Age. You also can go heavy feudal army if the enemy tries that, so you have to scout it a little bit. For Castle Age there's 2 options. The aggressive option is to get a relatively offensive castle landmark, probably around this area here, or maybe here on the top, and get your siege engines from that landmark and have a fallback point and get your 20% more attack speed, or 25% more attack speed, I don't know, 30% more attack speed. Or you drop your 30C. The 30C is definitely better for the iconic game. And if he sees that's a second TC now, so I think he's probably going for a 30C in H3, but he should reach before 10 minutes, also he should start it. While Vellith is still relatively far away from the This was more stone? That's interesting. Does he want to drop a 30C? So he still has a lead to But that's so risky because 3 TC of English is 2 TC is 3.1. It's 4.65 TCs. Yeah, that's 4.65. I don't think he has the food income for that, and the problem is now Fillis will hit Castle Age with the 3rd TC as well. So he has less village production, 46 to 47. He's still a little bit behind, but the big difference is his Castle Age, and Vellith has a big problem to keep his villager count up, getting Castle Age, and produce units. I like that he goes for Spearman now, because yeah, the knights are really juicy in that situation. To be fair, I would have loved, first of all, guys on stone again for an aggressive castle keep, and the man-at-arms, which in that situation I would have liked more. First of all, you already know he's on horseman, so you know spearmen are relatively good for your archers. You don't have the big gold income, and the map is really condensed, so your knights have a really hard time dealing good damage without taking a lot of damage. While man-at-arms, you can get a lot of them, and they take, especially the English one with the +2 armor and Castle Age, they just take ridiculous damage, and you can just swap the equal for a lot. Wow, that's a fast Castle Age still. Vellith has a nice... Holy shit, he has a nice EQ setup. He had a nice EQ setup. So... I also would like him to... Yeah, to be fair, his next stone is really far away. And what you... Also, this map is one of the best maps for keeps on TCs. First of all, your sideways TCs here or in the woodline protects more or less all your resources spots. Here one, they are really good for your resource gathering. The map has a lot of food, so you shouldn't drop out of food. And you also can drop, if you get the extra stone, here a keep, and you here keep, and here keep, and you can't really be pushed anymore. Interesting it will be when they get to the middle. I like the relatively aggressive wars from him that cost him 2 villagers, but they won't get the wall up. And now he has the problem that his doesn't have the food income at the moment. He has a lot of wood. He drops a few farms that I like. And yeah, that's a lot of knights, horsemen, and longbows. Does he? Yeah, he has the villager. I wanted to say, where's the villager? You always run offensive towers or keeps with English. He's still gathering stone. The problem is there's not enough stone here. He could get a market and buy the stone. To be fair. The Imperial Official list. Nice micro of Vellith. And yeah, Lancers versus Knights. Wow, these horsemen are way too good for what that was. That's 2 villager kills with the horsemen. We are now 97 to 8-9 army. The problem is, I think Vellith loses his army here. He has a blacksmith and has only +1 ranged armor. I think you want +2 ranged armor, and you either want Shukanu or you want Nest of Beast with Spearman. This was an archer range, not a no, the also upgrade veteran Spearman would be nice. And yeah, Nest of Beast. He's getting his granary set up. I'm impressed. It's a relatively nice English build. The only thing is the 30C I'm not the biggest fan of. Still, 89 to 109 villagers. So he's reaching his max villager count in the next 2 minutes, I think. Even less. I think he wants to go max on 240 villagers. The problem is, yeah, he's so much less army. The upgrades is English a little bit ahead. Income. Yeah, a lot more food income, little bit close to half the wood income, goes a little bit up again. He also gets his keep now. The real problem I see for Vellith is still no Nest of Bees. In a situation like, I would have loved to get the man-at-arms switch instead of the knight switch, or spearman at least. More spearman, yeah, he can kill more spearman. Because you need to protect your Nest of Bees, and you can protect them with knights, especially if the enemy has more knights than you. And Vellith has the big problem now, how he comes to gold, because his gold he only has 1k left. And he still has not a single Nest of Bee out. The Springers is a mistake, because you don't need it. You have the heavier melee army. You don't need anti-siege, because you don't really care about the anti-siege. You care about siege. You want siege to kill the archers, because the archers shred your spearmen. And your knight lancers can't really surround them, because the enemy has more cavalry than you. Also, he has better towers, and the problem is for Vellith, first of all, he has to move out because he wants out of gold. And the second big thing is he has to move. He wants to move out now before the siege position of Fillis gets too strong. Okay, that's a really bad trade. As nobody of the two players picking up the relics. To be fair, China can't, because they don't have map control and English don't need it at the moment. I understand that he wants to focus his resources more on military. To be fair, he has enough to really get it, but yeah. Halfway decent archer micro. If you see an archer mess with your if you see a spearman mess and you have archers with knights, just click to the archers. Most of the time the fastest way, and then ignore them. And might be your knights, so the spearman can't really hit them. Or for me, it's takes better, but yeah. Vellith has a good micro. And that's more or less a problem. With Spearman or Horseman, he could have overrun them, but the problem with Lancers is Lancers work if you have more Lancers, or Lancers Knights work when you have more than the enemy. If you have less, you always lose with them, especially versus English, because English have a 20% attack speed boost on them, so they did 20% more damage than your Lancers do. And he has archers that are better than your spearmen in the fight, because they first of all can snipe your spearmen and they can actually damage the archer, the lancers, while the spearmen, if the micro is good, can't. Here's the Nest of Bees. If he had gotten the Nest of Bees earlier, the Springald is still questionable. And if he would have taken a big infantry mass, he also repairs it nice, I wanted to say. Just let it stay there and... Oh my god, the spearmen have to turn back. The spearmen have to turn back. Oh, here comes the man-at-arms switch from... Yeah, that's game over because he can't do anything with the man-at-arms. Yeah, and that's why I like the man-at-arms switch on the map, because the man-at-arms get only countered by crossbow, especially English man-at-arms and mass. If you attack. And the crossbow gets countered by longbows. So you have a relatively decent army if you get a push that early. Also, I think it plays more on the strength of oh, you should not mind. Just stop being 104 villagers to 142. Yeah, it's pretty much over. Also, food income is idle for the past 10 minutes now. No gold left. Oh, but he got the man-at-arms mess. Shit. Also yeah, the thing for Fillis is I still would love to see a keep here. Maybe a keep here or a keep here, because it gets a lot harder to get all the resources. Also yeah, the reason why I like man-at-arms on this map way more is because it's small. You don't have the micro lane, so if you're getting attacked, lances are fine because you have a lot of space where you can attack them, kite back, attack them, kite back. But with man-at-arms, if you want to attack on this small space, where you want to run, you can't really micro with man-at-arms in this space. And they are, in theory, for the resources, more tanky than the lancers also. That's a desperate keep to get control over the gold. I don't think he gets it up. The longbow mass, man-at-arms mass is up just too high. Yeah, that's also the problem for lancers for Vellith. Yeah, lancers are good defensively on the map. If you see it fast enough and you can start attacking here with them. But if you get sieged, I think spearmen, horsemen and siegemen, also spearmen, man-at-arms, to be fair, your man-at-arms are better to harass than defensively. But yeah, spearmen, man-at-arms a lot of siege, also 2-3 clockwork nests of bees. Then you take into 2 clockwork spangles, and maybe even also a trap division would also be really good to just kill the towers of the English, because yeah, the towers have a lot of pressure. Also I would build, to be honest, nest of bees, 1 trebuchet and 1 nest of bees until I see him going spangles, when you also want to go spangles. And we have the Vanguard Palace for the Vanguard army. I like the Vanguard Rangers and Vanguard army. They are the best. Vanguard Raiders are shit. Also they are cost efficient, but it's not time efficient. 3 horsemen, 3 knights, nah. To be fair, 2 crossbows, 3 enemies aren't time efficient either. But at least they complement your army really well, because crossbows from the heavy units and hand cannons are also really good for you. While that are just the best efficiency ever, because you get the trebuchet for more or less free. And yeah. Vellith still has a problem, he doesn't have the gold. 163 villagers, that's a little bit too high in theory, I would say, but yeah, in that case it's absolutely fine, because you have, yeah, here comes the production buildings forward, and you have so many resources, you just can send an endless flood in it, and you can do that, you can go over 165 villagers, because Vellith can't really afford the army. And you have then villagers to suicide and build aggressive keeps and stuff like that. If you ever want to play aggressive and you just get down to 100 to 120 villagers again and then just produce much army. It's what even if Vellith can stabilize, Fillis has so much more resources gathered on the map that he should outpower Vellith even over the long game. Because the moment he can push back the army and he does damage to Fillis' eco, he only can drop into maybe 120, 100 villagers again, and then he just can fill it up with army. The only thing that is deceptive too is, although such a high villager count, is if you get all in and you don't have the production, but yeah, I think I can't complain too much. Also, maybe a few more archery ranges would be nice, but yeah, the barrack production is good enough to defend most things. And it's not like he can just walk there and attack. It's a stone wall here, here are walls. It's a hard. Still no keep. Yeah, also it looks like Fillis wants to end it because he gets the siege structures, but he still could have just got a keep. Stop the keep here, get the upgrade for more attack speed, and then get 2-3 trebuchets here and just start to shell the shit out of this town. And English trebuchets, they shell a lot, especially if you get the university upgrade for 100% more damage on them. And collateral damage, it's not so good with these buildings. Oh, we see the first trebuchet of Vellith. Finally. Also no market for Vellith. What would be quite good to maybe sell wood. I still don't know why he spends his gold on Lancers. Lancers are so big at this point of the game. Especially if you have not a good equal, you don't want lancers. Get the upgrade for horsemen, and mass horsemen are so much better. The better with ranged units, the worse with men at arms to be sure, but the problem is the lancers, they die too fast to deal damage, and you can't get enough of them. And yeah, the market would be good just to get gold and sell wood. Oh, he's finally on the stone here. Military. Yeah. Most villagers and knights was a really horrible thing. And yeah, that should be more or less again men at arms everywhere. Yeah, I think that's the biggest critic points I have in that game. And the lens attack, to be fair, I also would have got a stable for lens because it was really juicy the moment he was in Castle Age, but I think the things I would have still loved from Fillis would be a keep here, more trebuchets here to shell it. It's, of course you can do it that as well, but to be honest, you have no reason to go in his base. You know he is out of gold. You know he's out of gold. He knows he has push out. And if you get he keeps there with trebuchets, he can do nothing against it. So absolutely nothing. Yeah. 1 TC. Second TC, Song Dynasty hit. Second TC, third TC. Oh, second and third TC somewhere around here. Second TC, third TC, yeah. And yeah, I think the third TC was a small mistake. I think it cost too much food to sustain it and too much resources. I understand that he wants to go ahead, but it should be sure if English goes 2 TC and there's no big longbow follow up, it will be Castle Age for the 3rd TC just to stay ahead of China. And the problem with that is, yeah, China can get a 3rd TC and just absolutely outboom English in theory. As you can see here, it should be somewhere here. The big problem is, if we look here, that's around between 16 and 8 minutes military count. Yeah. So we have here the 3rd TC of him, of Fillis. Starts to get his production buildings and his army goes up. Goes massively up. Vellith has a small army here, out of I think 4 horsemen or something like that. But he goes Castle Age after him. Then he starts to get his production buildings at the same point. Then he has to start units, and he can produce as much villagers because he spends 55% more food on villagers than, or even more because English has better farms. So you spend a shit ton of food on this map. Yeah, you have a shit ton of food, but not for 3 TC China. if he went instead of the 3rd TC Castle Age instantly, or even instead of the 2nd TC Castle Age, get his maybe one in with Man-at-Arms, Palace Guard as well as, and tag into 2-3 Nest of Bees with Spearmen to protect them, a lot of Spearmen, and then you can drop your 2 TCs and expand to your forward resources, your extra food deer in the right corner and the gold. But on this map, or you do this with the 2nd TC and then go Castle Age, but I think you need... In that case, you have needed the army to defend. I like that he went... I also would have loved to see him on the stone, keep on the stone, just get the 2nd TC, get Castle Age, drop a keep there, get your get army, Nest of Bees, Spearmen, and he can push you at all at that position. And then you slowly creep out, and if you hit Imperial Age with a lot of sieges, China, around the same time English do, you overrun them because you have so much better resources. While if English is ahead, China can struggle, but English is more or less on a timer because the snowball power of... English has to do damage before China hits Castle Age or Imperial Age. Or early Castle Age, they have to deal damage, because if China gets more or less unscathed out of it, their unit, while you get so much better, the hand cannoneers of China are actually OP. Before it was English's best hand cannoneer, now by far China, because they actually have range. I don't think they outrange a longbowman, but they outrange an archer in theory, and they are sick. Also, your siege... China English has a lot of waves, so in Feudal Age, English is in theory stronger, but China is really strong too. And you more or less, China wants to boom, because yeah, of course, Feudal Age they can fight, but they're not really good. In Feudal Age they still will lose over a long time versus English. But in Castle Age and Imperial Age, they win the direct trades with them, but they lose resource-wise, because English and Imperial Age have their pastures and get so much gold from that. So if you get a death ball with China, you can all in English and Imperial Age and kill them most of the time. The problem is just when the gold, if English survives long enough, sometimes China can run low on gold, and then English can win the game actually, but yeah, that's very hard. But yeah, I think it was a nice game. I really liked the resource. Vellith did a great job with catching up to Castle Age with 3 TCs. I didn't think he would get that close. I would have thought he will be behind 2-3 minutes, but that was a really nice timing. But yeah, I think the TC was still too greedy. And yeah, from Fillis, Man-at-Arms, more Man-at-Arms instead of Knights way earlier, and maybe a keep to get your 20% more attack speed. And in a position like that, the only way Fillis could have lost is how he did it and go in. If Vellith had 3-4 Nest of Bees and defended, he could have expanded to the gold resources and could stabilize the game and could come back. But the safe option would be, yeah, stay at the side, send your villagers to his gold and deal at that point, so he can't even gather them if he pushes you back from there, and drop 1-2 keeps there and start to shell him with trebuchets. Because he has to engage in you when you have trebuchets, especially if you're English, because you have better trebuchets than he has. So you can even attack his trebuchets. Yeah, but I think it was also... Fillis, take the relics. You had, also I know you had the wood for it most of the time, and I think you can spend the 100 or 150 gold. That's 2 nights, I think you would have fun with that from the gold value here. But yeah, it was a nice game. Good luck in your guys' games, and see you if you have interesting games like that. Just tell me and I try to cast them. Bye!